Here we have both the newer and older style Titelist heads. The first Titelist is the 975. It has a bore-through and it was a solid piece. The whole shaft is glued in these areas, which makes it difficult to remove the shaft. It requires a lot of heating. Momentarily, we will see how to remove the shaft using the shaft extractor. The next one is the 905. It has an aluminum sleeve all the way through and it is glued in two areas. The rest of it is hollow. This is what the factory sleeve looks like. There are a couple of ways to reshaft this club. Since it is aluminum, it is very easy to damage the aluminum sleeve. If it is damaged at all by removing the shaft, and the shafts do come out easier than on the 975, you will have to replace the aluminum sleeve. This is our replacement for the 905, and as you can see, it has our gluing windows in it. And it also has the stops on the end, which allows it to go in only one way and won't allow it to turn. Later in the video, we will show you how to remove the shaft and put the replacement in. This is the Titelist 907. You can heat the 907 and pull the shaft out fairly easily. However, if you ever damage the aluminum sleeve, it can be removed. This sleeve is threaded down to about this mark, and it is epoxied in. As you can see, there are threads in there. It will break off at the top thread. We are now going to see the shaft removal and repair of a 905. This is the 905 sleeve removal kit. It includes a complete set of instructions which shows you examples of how to pull the sleeve out. The kit also comes with a 3/8 tap, as well as a threaded stock sleeve which threads into the aluminum hosel. It also includes a silicone rubber collar which will protect the paint when you remove the shaft. First, place the club in the proper turret of the extractor. We will then heat it with a heat gun. Remember that the aluminum sleeve goes from here to here, but it is glued here and here. The rest is hollow. Heat the aluminum so the shaft can be removed. Please note that when heating the Titelist head, both the 905 and the 975, there is a hole with a plastic plug. It is possible that you can melt the plastic plug. However, the plug can be replaced. It can be replaced using one of Billy Bob's graphite tapered plugs. You cut it off and finish it with a bore-through. After heating, remove the head. Please use caution as the head will be hot. The shaft is quite long, so it requires a puller that will go all the way up. Then, pull off the head and remove the shaft from the extractor. Now, we are going to thread the aluminum sleeve, because we are going to remove it from the head. We'll use a tap. Insert it into the head. Using a crescent wrench, we'll begin the tapping process. It doesn't have to be perfect, just something the puller can grab onto. It's aluminum, so it's soft and you only need a few threads in it. Remove the tap and you can see that it is threaded. Next, we insert the bar stock. The extractor will be holding it close to the head, and it will use the bar as if it were the shaft of the club. The extractor will pull the sleeve out. If your extractor requires a longer piece of 3/8 threaded stock, it may be purchased at Home Depot. Please note, if you have a Mitchell club head remover, you will need to insert the protective collar and then screw it down just far enough to secure it, leaving enough room for the sleeve to slide through. Then the Mitchell attaches to the nut and allows you to remove the aluminum sleeve. Remember not to clamp it down and to protect it with the collar. We will now show you how to remove the club head using the Billy Bob's shaft extractor. Placing the protective collar on the shaft, we insert the shaft into the extractor. We will heat it here and here using a heat gun. After heating and using precaution, remove the head. As you can see, the sleeve is removed from the head. Remove the protective collar, which protects any of the paint on the head. Using a wire brush, clean out the head, which is hollow inside. On the sleeve, you can see the glue area. This one is cleaned off, but normally you see a lot of anti-rattle compound on the sleeve, which the factory uses to prevent any debris from rattling around in the head. Be aware that when you heat up the head, you may release some of the anti-rattle and the pieces it's holding. Always have anti-rattle epoxy or anti-rattle solutions to squirt into the head. You can get it at Golfsmith and it has a syringe for easy application in the head. Now here's the replacement sleeve. It only goes in one way and it comes out far enough on the bottom that you'll have to prep out the bottom. Now we're going to insert the Billy Bob's aluminum sleeve for the Titelist 905. There is also a ferrule that perfectly fits the sleeve. Billy Bob's 3/4 inch 335 collared ferrule fits all the Titelist 905s and 907s. It's important to dry fit everything first to ensure all the clearances are correct. First, you want to see where the shaft will hit at the end of the sleeve. and where the paint line is going to be. You want the ferrule to stop at the paint line. After making sure everything fits, mix the epoxy. Put a little bit of epoxy on the shaft, and then slide the ferrule on. The only areas you want to glue on the sleeve is here and here. Too much epoxy can drip down, creating excessive debris inside the head. Then take a little epoxy and coat the top and the bottom. Then take the sleeve and insert it all the way down. Wipe any excess epoxy off. Now coat the shaft with a thin, even coat of epoxy. Put epoxy on in the sleeve and then insert the shaft. Tap it and make sure it comes up through the bottom. Using a paper towel and some alcohol, clean off the excess epoxy. Next, we'll insert the plug. There are two plugs. One will be inserted into the small hole used to fill the head with anti-rattle compound, while the other will be placed in the shaft at the bore-through. Tap them in and then using cutters, cut them off. Clean off the bottom and clean the ferrule with alcohol. Make sure to get all the glue off. It's easier to get it off when it's still tacky before it sets. You can also clean it with acetone if necessary. You're now going to put together a 975. As you can see, we've prepped the shaft all the way, added epoxy, and installed the ferrule. We'll add a little more epoxy to make sure there is a good coating. Then add the head and push the shaft all the way down, tapping the shaft on the floor to get the bore-through in as high as possible so you can get a good clean bore-through. Then insert the pin, tap it in, and cut it off. Next, clean off the epoxy with a paper towel and alcohol. This ferrule will need to be turned down. As you can see, it goes into the groove. It is a 3/4 inch ferrule, and when you turn it down, it will have a nice finish. Now we're going to show you how to take down the bore-through on the Titelist. We're going to put it on the hard wheel, using a hard Scotch-Brite wheel. Applying light pressure, get it down enough before moving to the next finishing wheel. After using the finishing wheel, clean it with a little acetone. It will put a nice polish on the pin and give it a nice factory finish. Next, we're going to finish the 905. We can take a little bit off with the harder wheel first, but the Scotch-Brite wheel should be sufficient. Make sure you don't get it too hot, as you don't want to melt the plastic plug. Try to go around the outside of it. Then go to the finishing wheel. Then clean it off, and you'll have a nice finished head.